It's that time of the year again. Coaster fans will travel far and wide to experience as many rides as possible, and I am no exception. 2025 was a bit more relaxed compared to years past, but I did knock out some major coasters and some rides that have unfortunately left us. I rode 34 new roller coasters in 2025, and it's time for the annual tradition. From the now defunct Six Flags America to the wonderful Universal Orlando Resort, these are my new for 2025 coasters, ranked. #34 Woodstock Express at Dorney Park. This is the generic Zamperla kiddie coaster, and it isn't one of the better ones. I found it quite rough. Some of the transitions were very jarring. It is just a kiddie coaster though, so no point dragging this out. Moving on. 33 Professor Screamore's Skywinder at Six Flags America. This was one of Vekoma's suspended looping coasters, or the SLC for short, and this was not fun at all. I have seen a few of these in person, but this was my first one riding, and it was just horrible. It wasn't the roughest coaster I've been on, but it was rough enough where I couldn't appreciate anything about it. My head would bang against the headrest again and again and again, especially during the inline twist or whatever this element is called. Skywinder was just horrible, and I won't miss it at all. 32 Sea Serpent at Fun Spot Kissimmee. I've been on similar rides before, and this was a fine kiddie coaster. Nothing spectacular to say about it, but the operator kept accidentally overshooting the station, so I went on it like 6 times unintentionally. The funny story does make it a bit more memorable for me. 31 Troller Coaster at Universal Studios Florida. Nothing much to say again. I've been on similar rides of this model at Six Flags Magic Mountain, Six Flags Mexico, and many more. It's a fun kiddie coaster. I do really like the color scheme though. It has a nice pop with the bright orange. 30 Wild Mouse at Dorney Park. I do not like this type of ride at all. The laterals were pretty uncomfortable, but they weren't a huge problem. The issue with this one specifically was the harsh brakes towards the middle of the ride. Not because they slow it down, but because they hit so hard. Any enjoyment I would have gotten out of this ride was ruined because of that, especially that last one before the station. It was so unnecessary. Damn. Ow! Ow! 29 Flight of the Hippogriff at Universal's Islands of Adventure. I've been on this ride at the Hollywood Park, and I remember that one being a lot more fun. I could lap that one all day long, but one ride was good enough for this one. It is a slightly different ride, different manufacturer and all, and I also haven't been on the other one since 2018, so maybe I did just grow out of it. This is a fine enough kids coaster, but it could be a little better. 28 Journey to Atlantis at SeaWorld Orlando. This was actually my first traditional water coaster. I have done Aquaman Power Wave at Six Flags Over Texas, and while I love that ride, it is a completely different beast. Atlantis is a lot more chill, with some nice scenery, a good drop, fun little coaster section, and my favorite part being this small dip before the second lift. It absolutely soaks you. It is definitely more water ride than coaster, but I had a good time, and it was a great way to cool off in the Florida heat. 27 Demon Drop at Dorney Park. I know it might be controversial to put this one here, but it is full circuit, it operates like a coaster, so I'm counting it. This is one of the freakiest rides I've been on. The elevator is great at building tension, and the switch to the drop track might be one of the scariest ride moments I've experienced. The drop is awesome, and it pulls some good positive G's in the valley. Demon Drop is a strange but fun ride, and it is one of my favorites at Dorney Park, but as a coaster, it leaves a lot to be desired. 26 Thunderhawk at Dorney Park. This is unfortunately one of the times where an old wooden coaster actually rides like it's that old. For Thunderhawk, it's not in terms of roughness. This was a pretty smooth ride, but its layout doesn't do much. It's profiled pretty strangely, and there's not really a standout moment. I wanted to like this more, but it didn't leave much of an impression. But a boring and smooth coaster is better than a painful and forceful coaster, so it ranks up here. 25 Freedom Flyer at Fun Spot Orlando. This is the worst of the modern suspended coasters I've done. It is a very good one visually, but the ride doesn't do much. It interacts with the paths well, it's not too rough, but it was a one and done for me. 24. Hurricane at Fun Spot Kissimmee. This is just such a weird ride. I have been on Prairie Screamer, and this is nothing like that. The jank is through the roof. It has some decent airtime, some violent laterals, and some solid positive G's, but it's got nothing on its big brother in Texas. This is possibly the most carnival-like ride at any Fun Spot. 23. Mind Blower at Fun Spot Kissimmee. When I rode the Boss at Six Flags St. Louis in 2023, I swore it was the roughest coaster I've ever been on, and I did not expect it to be dethroned anytime soon. But some way, somehow, Mind Blower came really close. The wooden sections jackhammer so much, I could not enjoy any of the forces I know this ride has. The steel 208 track, while having some very rough transitions, especially in that corkscrew, was the only redeeming part of the ride. I'm usually against steel track on wooden coasters, but Mind Blower is an exception. I hope it gets more steel track in the future. It would do wonders and it would shoot way up in my rankings, but for now it's just a rough mess that I decided to ride 4 times for some reason. 22. Ragin' Cajun at Six Flags America. When they said Ragin' Cajun was out of control, I did not realize how out of control it would really be. This is the typical spitting wild mouse with much more comfortable trains, I might add, but in the second half it just spins you over and over and over again. It was honestly too much for me. I could only take one ride. It shares a nearly identical layout to a ride I hate, the Tickler at Luna Park, but this one was much smoother, much more enjoyable, just way too forceful to justify a second ride. 21. Possessed at Dorney Park. This was my first intimate impulse coaster, and while I had a good time, it was really short. The launches were punchy and the spikes were both pretty fun. I really wish it had like one more pass through the layout, but it's a fine ride and it serves its purpose well in the lineup. 20. Hydra the Revenge at Dorney Park. I was pretty disappointed with this one. Of the ground up floorless coasters I've done, this was one of the roughest ones. The headbanging takes a lot of points from the ride, and the inversions honestly didn't have as much bite as I had hoped. It's a decent ride, it has a few dead moments, and it is nowhere near my favorite floorless. 19. Icebreaker at SeaWorld Orlando. This launch coaster is a bit of a mixed bag, but I had a good time. It had mostly good airtime, punchy launches, and that spike is great. It's my least favorite coaster from Premier, but it's still a solid ride. 18. Cheetah Hunt at Busch Gardens Tampa. I went into this ride expecting a little more than what was there. The launches were nice and punchy, the sense of speed was pretty good, and there was some nice airtime moments. But the ride honestly left me underwhelmed. I might have just had expectations way too high, but it was my least favorite of the 4 coasters I did at this park. The water also wasn't on, which was very disappointing. 17. Kraken at SeaWorld Orlando. Finally getting into some of the better coasters. This is a lower tier floorless, but it was still a good time. It didn't really pull any forces, but it has a long layout. In the back it was pretty whippy, and it was surprisingly smooth. Some good scenery would do wonders for the ride, but as is, it's a good introductory thrill coaster. 16. Steel Force at Dorney Park. This was the worst of the 3 Morgan Hypers I've been on, but it was still a pretty solid ride. The first airtime hill provides some good floater, and the low to the ground helix packed in some good positive G's. Its setting is honestly beautiful, and the second half wasn't too bad. If it was a little less trimmed, it would have crazy floater and possible ejector like Mamba, but as is, it's a pretty good hyper, and I'd love to ride it again. 15. Revenge of the Mummy at Universal Studios Florida. My first ride on this, I was kind of questioning certain aspects about it, but with a second ride, I truly enjoyed the experience. The launch is very punchy, the dark ride sections are fun, and the fake out station is probably the best part of the ride. It's not a standout attraction at the park, but it's a fun ride with a pretty convenient single rider line. 14. Wild One at Six Flags America. The loss of this ride hurts. Wild One was such a great ride. It ran surprisingly smooth, provided tons of airtime, and great laterals. The back row was so out of control, it will truly be missed. 13. SheiKra at Busch Gardens Tampa. I didn't go into this ride with high expectations. I thought it was short and it wasted its speed. But after getting on it, I loved it. That drop delivers such strong airtime. The immelment and turnaround have some solid positives, and the sense of speed is insane. I wish that speed was kept up, but the second half has another great drop and the amazing splashdown, which makes this ride a blast on and off ride. I was expecting an okay ride, but I got a complete and thrilling experience. SheiKra makes me unbelievably excited for Tormenta. 12. Iron Menace at Dorney Park. Similar story to Shikra. I heard this was rough and unbearable, but Iron Menace was so much fun. The drop has a lot of bite, the consistent speed, pacing, and rapid fire elements kept the ride from ever being boring, and the positive G's were pretty solid. While it does have that jolt at the end, it doesn't hurt at all, and Iron Menace is easily one of Dorney Park's best. 11. White Lightning at Fun Spot Orlando. I did not think that this small GCI would be this good. Everything happens so quickly, it gives some solid airtime, some great laterals, and it's shockingly smooth. It's one of my favorite GCIs, and it's a must-do when in Florida. 10. The Incredible Hulk at Universal's Islands of Adventure. This ride is some of B&M's best work. It's got an awesome uphill launch, plenty of whippy and positive G packed inversions, and an awesome soundtrack with the on-ride audio. I had so much fun on this ride, and while it's the weakest link of the Islands of Adventure trio, it's still a blast and worth the ride. 9. Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket at Universal Studios Florida. I did a 20-minute video on this ride already. Consider checking that out if you haven't, so I'll keep it brief. Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket was awesome. Great positive G's, great airtime, and the music selection was something we haven't seen anything like before and probably never will see again. This was such a great addition to the resort ride experience-wise, and while I understand it had to go, I will miss it very, very much. 8. Talon at Dorney Park. Talon is incredibly underrated. The first half is like a sized up Batman clone, and the second is a low to the ground and positive G filled riot. It's like a scaled down Silver Bullet at Knott's Berry Farm. It's not nearly as long, but it is just as fun. Easily Dorney Park's best coaster. 7. Montu at Busch Gardens Tampa. This is commonly considered the best B&M invert, and while I think it's slightly overhyped, it is still amazing. Montu is such a whippy ride, throwing you every which way through the inversions, packing some solid positive G, and having some nice trench work. The trenches are a great touch, amplifying the ride's already powerful roar. The one train and slow ops are a pain, but Montu was no doubt worth it. 6. Pipeline the Surf Coaster at SeaWorld Orlando. I love the original B&M stand-ups, and I expected to love the new surf coaster as well, but I did not expect to love it this much. The airtime on this ride is amazing, amplified by the seats bouncing up and down. The positive G's are surprisingly great as well, not as bone-crushing as the original stand-ups, but still pretty great. It is one of the most pure fun coasters I've been on. It is one of B&M's best offerings nowadays, and I cannot wait for more of these to begin popping up. 5. Hagrid's Magical Creature Motorbike Adventure at Universal's Islands of Adventure. I don't know what I expected from Hagrid's, but let me tell you, those expectations were very high. I don't want to spoil too much because I have a viewer who would really love to ride this blind, but it is easily one of the most impressive coasters ever built, easily the best family coaster out there. It combines storytelling and thrills like no other, and I cannot sing my praises for this ride enough. I cannot wait to get back to this ride, and I only see my opinion on it getting better. 4. Manta at SeaWorld Orlando. Another coaster that just exceeded expectations. I did not think there would be another flying coaster of the same quality of Tatsu, but Manta not only met that bar, but even exceeded Tatsu in my eyes. They are both very close in my rankings, but Manta was just too good not to put higher. It is shockingly powerful with rapid fire elements, its scenery is amazing, and the interactions with the water are great. I sat all the way in the back on the right side of the train. You obviously don't get soaked, but you can feel the water from the pool and the waterfall at the end. I only had time for my first rides on Penguin Trek or Manta, and I definitely made the right choice. 3. Mako at SeaWorld Orlando. I was so hyped for this B&M Hyper, and it truly delivered. In one of my previous videos, I said that I was waiting for the day that one of these rides would overthrow the amazing Goliath at Six Flags Over Georgia, and Mako did it. It offers all the amazing airtime Goliath does, but it runs way smoother. Some of these airtime hills are so strong, not many B&Ms even match it. The ending could be better, but it isn't bad at all. And Mako is an all-star in one of the greatest coaster lineups in America. 2. Velocicoaster at Islands of Adventure. In my previous video, I mentioned how unrealistic expectations could play a major role in either enjoying or being disappointed in something. I've had this experience several times. My rides on Steel Vengeance in 2024 and El Toro in 2022 were very disappointing. While El Toro made a crazy comeback after some retracking, Steel Vengeance still left me underwhelmed. Going into Velocicoaster, part of me worried about having similar feelings, but Velocicoaster delivered. delivered. The theming is incredible in the first half, and the forces are so diverse. Velocicoaster is similar to rides like Tatsu, where it slowly builds and becomes more grand with its elements, up until it gives you a truly elite one to close the ride off. The ride is a masterpiece from a coaster perspective, and I love it more and more every time I talk about it. Not to mention the experience gets better even off-ride. The line is so immersive with props from the films, and these amazing raptor animatronics. Velocicoaster is truly out of this world, but it only met my high expectations. There is one coaster that truly exceeded them, and because of that, it places higher. 1. Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens, Tampa. As I touched on earlier, Steel Vengeance left me incredibly disappointed in 2024. It has this amazing first half with these grand elements and an insane sense of speed. And then the mid-course hits, and it was just a ton of airtime slop with 2 good inversions to spice things up. I expected more, and Iron Gwazi truly delivered what I wanted. The forces on this ride are so unbelievably intense, and the ride never once gives you a moment to breathe. This is like Intimidator 305 compared to Millennium Force, but I'd argue Iron Gwazi is way better than I-305. The ride just plows through every element with so much speed. You're always out of your seat or being thrown side to side. Iron Gwazi is one of the best coasters ever built, and while I only got one ride, that one was enough for me to put it at the top of this list and very high on my overall coaster rankings. And that wraps up my new for 2025 roller coasters. What did you think of the list? And if you experienced any new coasters in 2025, feel free to leave your favorites in the comments below. Stay tuned as I will be ranking all 254 roller coasters I've been on in the coming weeks. If that is already uploaded, it will be popping up in the card right now, and if that catches your eye, I will see you there.